Welcome back to the Upside Sports Network. My name is Michael. Appreciate you guys joining us on this Thursday evening. Busy night around the world of baseball anyway. Shohei Ohtani's contract is now official. He was introduced today at a press conference this afternoon. Shortly thereafter, we saw the acquisition by the Dodgers to bring in Tyler Glasnow and Manny Margot from the Tampa Bay Rays. We knew the Rays were looking to offload money, but what a way for the new LA Dodgers to really put their best foot forward over the next few years. The deal is contingent on Glasnow signing a contract extension. That is expected to go through. Just a matter of them narrowing down those numbers before this trade becomes official. But it looks like the LA Dodgers certainly get a big arm for their pitching staff going forward, not only for just this year. If the contract extension goes through, you're probably looking at him being in that starting rotation for the next 5, 6, 7 years, somewhere in there. Probably in that $25, $30 million annual salary range. Great trade for the LA Dodgers. I thought the value on this was really good for them, based on the deal being contingent on him signing a long-term deal. That makes it worth what they're ultimately giving up Ryan Pipio and Johnny DeLuca, if I remember correctly. We'll kind of go over that deal, but what a deal for the LA Dodgers, getting the top arm on the market right now, on the trade market anyway. Now all eyes turn towards Corbin Burnes up there in Milwaukee, and what's going to go on with the rest of the starting pitching market for pitchers. Obviously, you have to look at Yamamoto first and foremost. John Heyman putting out a list of favorites right now, having the Dodgers and Yankees as the clear front runners for Yamamoto. Mets are, of course, still in there. Giants are, of course, still in there. There's no way to consider them to be out of it at this point. I think both of those teams are very much in the race for them. In the race for Yamamoto, there's been several teams that have been connected to him. I think there have been, in the last week or so, 17 teams that have been connected with Yamamoto. And it's going to take a little bit of time for this to get sorted out. Hopefully we get some clarity by this weekend. But some starting pitchers are starting to move. The other big addition today, the Texas Rangers added another starting pitcher, Tyler Mahle, on a 2-year, $22 million deal. Deal could be worth another $5 in incentives. Remember, he is coming off of Tommy John surgery, had his surgery about a month before Jacob deGrom. He's expected to be back around the All-Star break, maybe a week or two before the trade deadline. So it's kind of a trade deadline acquisition for Texas right now. They already have 5 starters in their rotation as it stands. You're looking at Scherzer, Eovaldi, Gray, Heaney, and Dunning. That's your 5 starters to begin the season. Mahle probably will be in there at some point because of the injury issues that they suffered last year and poor performance issues. Now, Scherzer, I don't think is going to make a whole, 33 starts during the regular season and then, pitch, 7 innings every single game in the postseason ever again. I think we've seen the best of Max Scherzer. It's just how healthy can you keep him once you get to October. Same thing for Jacob deGrom. You're probably looking a little bit after the trade deadline for him, probably mid-August for Jacob deGrom's return for Texas. But a good addition for them to help lengthen out that starting rotation. And the best part of this for Texas, they don't have to risk any long-term money. There are still question marks about that TV deal. That's part of the reason why they have not signed Jordan Montgomery as of yet. We'll see if they decide to get that deal done. But as of right now, they do add the starting pitcher they were looking for this offseason. I went into this offseason believing they needed 2 starting pitchers based off what they were looking at last year. The Rangers believe they can never have enough starting pitching, and they went out and improved it last year in the offseason by basically having 7, 8 starting pitchers with major league experience, significant major league experience going into the season, and then acquired 2 more at the deadline. So that's 10 starting pitchers they effectively were looking at last year on their active roster at one point or another. Right now, they're probably looking at 5 breaking camp with them. Then, of course, you got DeGrom and Mahle. That's 7. Bradford, I guess you consider, is 8. I'm still not counting them out for the starting pitcher market, so I'm still thinking they're in there for Montgomery. It's just a matter of how much money is it ultimately going to cost, and I think there's an opportunity other teams could go ahead and seize on and outbid the Rangers right now for him. Leslie, to your point, Alex Anthopoulos need to get moving now and sign Jordan Montgomery or get Cease trade done now. I think the Cease trade is waiting till after Yamamoto, so that's not going to happen. We're going to have to cool our jets there, at least on the Cease trade. The White Sox themselves are pulled him back off the market because they weren't getting the offers that they liked. With Yamamoto still on the market and a bunch of other starters like Blake Snell out there, Jordan Montgomery, among others. We've seen a few starters come off the board. Jack Flaherty goes to Detroit today, 1 year, $14 million. They have added a couple of starters to that rotation, Kenta Maeda, 2 for 26, and now Jack Flaherty, 1 for 14. Tigers are going to be significantly improved, especially in that pitching staff, and they're probably going to be competing with the Twins to win that division next year. The Royals, I know the Royals look absolutely terrible for the last couple of years, but that rotation is going to be a little bit better. That bullpen is going to be able to lock down some games. I'm not saying they're going to win 80 games. I am going to say that they're going to have a significant improvement based on what they did this past year. Probably looking at 10, 15 game win improvement off of what they did last year. And that's enough to cost some teams pivotal games down the stretch in August and September. So, not saying the Royals are going to win the division, but I am saying they're going to upset some teams down the stretch. Games that you think are gimmies for your team against Kansas City are no longer that after the improvements that they've made. So, we'll see what happens the rest of the way, but a very active last few days after the Ohtani, iceberg finally broke away. We finally see a flurry of activity. Giants finally add 1 big-time free agent, Young-Ho Lee, 6 years, $113 million. That we talked about for you guys on Tuesday. Great deal for them, but I still don't think that this is the linchpin to their offseason. They need to go out there and get one of the top pieces out there on the free agent market, like a Cody Bellinger, like a Blake Snell. If they don't get either of those two done, I still consider this a failure of an offseason for the San Francisco Giants front office, and I would not be surprised if Farhan Zaidi is out of there by the trade deadline, bring in some fresh blood, and then attack next year's winter meetings with a vengeance and try to bring in Juan Soto and all these other guys that have 1 year left on their deal or guys that are going to sign 1 year contracts this year and just see what you can get. Giants need some offensive punch in that lineup. They really need to get it done. But to your point there, Leslie, I absolutely am with you there. The Braves need to get going. I like the additions that they've made so far, kind of moving around the edges of their roster, but they haven't made an impactful move yet. We thought that with all the back end of the roster being cleared off for them, essentially, that they were going to be trying to save money and go out there and make some big time addition. Well, the trade that they made with the Angels ended up costing them $8.5 million for Max Stassi to play for another team. And I get that they're kind of, getting one piece that they like here, one piece that they like there. But these are not pieces like what the Dodgers are doing, bringing in Ohtani, bringing in Glasnow, and what else they're going to do. I'm expecting Yamamoto probably going to end up there, is probably going to end up there at this point. And then they're not going to be done at that point either. They still could bring back Kershaw. They're said to still be looking for other starting pitchers even after this, most notably Corbin Burns. And with them only giving up Pipio as far as their pitching prospects, they still have the arms to be able to make a significant deal, a significant offer anyway, to go to the Brewers and say, hey, we'll take your starter. He's got 1 year left. We'll make it contingent on him signing an extension. We'll have a rotation, not this coming year, but the following year, of Ohtani, Yamamoto, Glasnow, Burns, and then whoever else ultimately is still there in Dodgerland. But what a rotation they're going to have, not this coming year, but the following year. I still think they're going to be very formidable. Last year was a big step back for them, and we all saw it going into the season. We knew that they were trying to save money, trying to trim it down for those luxury tax concerns. And now with the Shohei Ohtani deal locked up, $68 million deferred, his deal only counting roughly $46 million towards the CBT tax, and ultimately, the Braves are going to be one of the highest bidders for most of the players that they want in free agency right now. They decide to get the biggest trade piece out there in Glasnow. I think it's could probably be the most impactful move. I think Burns is still a very good pitcher as well, but I think it was kind of 1A and 1B between the two. Take your pick as to which one you like better. But that's all the Braves need is a starting pitcher. That's it. Well, like I was saying just a minute ago, Leslie, they did add around the periphery. Evan White was sent off, but they brought in Kelenic for left. They made some moves in the rotation / back into the bullpen. Ronaldo Lopez, among other moves. I'm still not convinced that they're done, even if they add one more starting pitcher. I was looking for multiple impact pieces to be added to this team, not just in that starting rotation, but possibly in that bullpen. There is still Josh Hader on the market. I'm not saying they're a player for him. I'm just saying that there's impact moves that they can still make on the free agent market. It's just a matter of whether or not they have the intestinal fortitude and financial flexibility to be able to get it done. Because they are a public, or at least they released their money to the public anyway. We know they had some money extra to spare last year to where they can go ahead and invest it back into the team. But these teams like to turn a profit. So, maybe they want to hold on to that money and, go to the, cheaper route and get club-friendly deals. And, they're very picky about that kind of thing. Maybe that's their strategy, is just to continue to pile up these club-friendly deals, which has worked great for them. But when you're looking at free agents, they aren't looking to sign a club-friendly deal in free agency. They're looking for top market dollar. And guys like Blake Snell, this is their one opportunity to really cash in on the free agent market. They aren't going to take a discount deal just to go for a championship. They're looking to cash in on their one ride. And sure, they could discount a little bit of it to make a nice run, but they're not going to take, $10 million less per season just to go play in Atlanta for a championship. I'm sorry. There's plenty of teams out there that are still competing for a World Series, not named Atlanta. That Atlanta's going to have to step up their offers, I believe. I think they did for Nola. Ultimately, he decided to go back to Philadelphia. I think they did for Gray. He ultimately decided, I'd rather play in St. Louis. Now, for the trade market, I don't think they had a trade that was comparable to what the Dodgers are giving up for Glasnow. I don't think they'll be able to do the same thing for a guy like Burns if he is ultimately moved. I don't think they'll be able to match those types of deals. I don't think if Cease is moved that they'll be able to make a deal for that either. I just don't think they have the prospect depth to be able to make those types of moves. If they did, say for some miracle reason, the White Sox said, okay, Braves, we really would, we want to make a deal with you. We don't want him to go to the Dodgers or the Orioles. We're going to go ahead and sacrifice the premium prospects for the quantity that you can give us. So how many prospects are you going to give us for 2 years of Dylan Cease? At this point, Braves are probably going to have to give up 6, 7 prospects for Dylan Cease. You look at what Juan Soto was just moved for 1 year left of his deal. I'm not saying Dylan Cease is, Juan Soto, but I am saying for the Braves to be able to even be in the conversation for a trade when you have teams like the Dodgers and the Orioles with their farm systems against the Braves, it's not even a contest. It's going to have to be sheer quantity that the Braves are going to have to overwhelm a team with to be able to get a deal done, and I just don't think they're going to do it. They've really depleted that farm system to make this good team, great team that they have right now. And they're going to have to go to the free agent market and ultimately spend some money to make it better. Remember, Max Fried is a free agent after the year. They need to get that deal done if they can. I think he's going to go to free agency. I don't think he's going to sign an extension. So they need to figure out their long-term picture as to what their starting rotation is going to look like and do it quickly because the Dodgers are formulating this rotation right now, and it's going to be a good one for several years going forward. Ohtani's basically working essentially as a $2 million man for them over the next 10 years, getting 30, or getting 68 million after that. Things are going to look very different in the NL going forward. I thought this past season the Braves were the better team, couldn't get it done, obviously lost against Philadelphia. I thought the Dodgers had taken a step back, but I think the Dodgers are clearly going to be the class of the NL for the next 5 or 6 years. So what a nice jump forward by the Dodgers to be able to get the deal done for Shohei Ohtani. Looks like they could get the deal done for Yamamoto sometime in the next week or so. Looks like they're getting the deal done for Tyler Glasnow, and I'm not convinced that they're not going to add more starting pitching, even outside of Clayton Kershaw, if he decides to re-sign back with the Dodgers. So what a way to kick off our show. Make sure you guys hit that heart in the chat if you don't mind. Hit that like as well. Really does help us out. Let's go ahead and flip it over to MLBTradeRumors.com. Let me pull it up for you guys. In case you guys are unfamiliar with the site, basically, it's a great site to kind of keep your headlines around, or stay in touch with all the headlines that are happening around Major League Baseball, basketball, hockey as well. They have sites for all 4 major sports anyway. But the deals essentially coming together today are the Glasnow Margot deal to the Dodgers in exchange for Johnny DeLuca and Ryan Pipio. Great deal there. Pipio, of course, had some time in the major leagues this past season with the Dodgers anyway. Looks like the Rays are also sending $4 million in cash to the Dodgers. A little bit surprising there. I think it was part of the trade anyway to include the money for Margot. I think he's making, $9 million or so this coming season. Kind of eating some of that money there is what the Dodgers are doing there. But Glasnow is the premium piece here. He's going to probably be their number 1 or 2 as of right now. They still have Walker Buehler there. He's recovering from injury. Julio Urias, who knows where he's going to sign at this point. Welcome in, LC. Yamamoto, what's the word? Well, John Heyman tweeted out earlier today and said on Bleacher Report that the 2 front runners for Yamamoto are the New York Yankees and the Los Angeles Dodgers, with the Mets, the Giants, and about 14 other teams still in the mix for Yamamoto. Let us know in the chat where you think he's going to go. Go ahead and hit that heart if you think it's to the Dodgers. Hit that 100 if you think he's going to the Yankees. Mets, go ahead and throw some confetti. And Giants, go ahead and hit that smiley face. So let us know in the chat where you guys think he's going to go. But as of right now, it looks like the front runners, clearly the Dodgers and the Yankees. Yankees really acted like the actual Yankees for the first time in at least 10 years by getting the deal done for Juan Soto, basically saying, the heck with it. We know it's not necessarily a great deal for us. We need Juan Soto in this lineup, so we're going to go ahead and throw the prospects out there because we want the major league player right now. That's what they did for Juan Soto. Great deal for them. Gets them what they need in the outfield. Is it the right move from the analytic perspective, etc.? No, but, they kind of gave up a little bit too much, but that's okay. That's what you have to do right now when you're looking at trying to, compete in the rest of the market for a Juan Soto before the rest of those teams who missed out on Shohei turn around to Juan Soto and say, hey, we'll take him. We promised our fan base a big addition. We need to go after him. And ultimately, they decide to give up the extra prospects in order to get the deal done. Padres got a nice return there. But when you look at the rest of the market, they had to jump early to get that deal done for Juan Soto. Otherwise, they would be in a whole different world right now as far as where he could possibly end up. But the Yankees, I would say, need to get the deal done for Yamamoto. If they act like the Yankees like they did for Soto, hopefully they do the same thing here with Yamamoto and just throw the checkbook down and say, hey, Cohen's offering you $35 million per season over, 9 years or whatever the case is. We'll give you an extra year on top, whatever the case may be. In the media over the last year or two, a lot of the New York media has started to say, hey, for every Yankees dollar, there's another dollar with Steve Cohen's name on it. And that narrative has to change, I believe, if you're a Yankees fan, if you're a Yankees front office holder, because the Yankees' biggest, the biggest thing that they could have done under the George Steinbrenner Yankees was throw that checkbook out there when teams were afraid of throwing out that kind of money. Now there's a lot of teams out there that have the extra income, the extra money, since baseball is doing so well financially. Teams like the Red Sox not necessarily throw around money like they used to, but you're talking about non-traditional baseball markets like San Diego still having a payroll, even after the Juan Soto trade, of $200 million. The Texas Rangers, after the signing of Tyler Mahle today, have a payroll around $235 million already. Last year anyway, they had a payroll around $257 million. One of the biggest payrolls they have ever had. The Cubs are going to add some money. The Dodgers are spending money like a madman. Giants have so much money, they just can't get anybody to take it. So we shall see. One trade just happened a moment ago anyway. Billy McKinney goes from the Yankees to the Pirates. Kind of a depth move for the Pirates. A little bit surprising. International bonus pool money going back to the Yankees. Yankees really used that international bonus pool money really well. That's why they got the Martian Jason Dominguez. Part of how they got him onto that roster is because they continue to acquire slot money to kind of add to that prospect pool add to their money pool for international free agency to continue to add some minor league talent, not just through the draft, but through free agency as well. Welcome in, Dan. Well, appreciate you joining us once again. I still say the Braves are the class of the NL because we are younger than the Dodgers. I don't think age has anything to do with it as far as class of the NHL or of the NL right now. I would say it's all about who's best on the field right now. And I would say position player for position player, Braves have the Dodgers beat by a mile. That's not close. But what is close is now that the Dodgers have Shohei Ohtani, their future looks so much brighter than it did even 3 weeks ago that the Braves, I believe, have some serious question marks in that starting rotation, to where while they have the position player talent, I have no doubt the Dodgers are going to have the better starting rotation, not just this coming year, but the years after that, with Shohei being healthy, Yamamoto probably signing there, sounding like Glasnow is going to sign an extension there, possibly other starters going there, Walker Buehler coming back from injury. They look like they're going to have the starting pitching depth that they did in the early years of their dynasty run, and we'll see if they can win another World Series at this point. 60% Yankee, 40% Dodgers, because the Dodgers just signed Glasnow with extension, may not have enough money for Yamamoto. I don't think that's even entering into the dynamics of this right now, Dan. I really don't. The money that they're spending on Ohtani essentially is $2 million. The money that they're spending on tax, I believe, is going to be around, I can't remember the number anyway. It counts for 46 against the tax anyway. So it's a 40% tax, something along those lines. So you're probably looking at a $30 million. So the Shohei money is still going to be big, don't get me wrong, but it's not going to be $70 million per season big. But when you look at the Glasnow contract, you're probably looking at 25 this year. You're looking at probably 30, 35 the next. And then as far as the rest of it goes, I'm expecting them to have a payroll of around $300 million or more. Ohtani's only going to have $2 million of that right now, at least as far as actual dollars they're handing out to the team. And I'm expecting them to really crank that salary up, not just by bringing in Glasnow and Ohtani, by possibly bringing back Kershaw, possibly signing Yamamoto. If I had to lean one direction, I would say 60% Dodgers, 40% Yankees, because I'm still not convinced that they're going to throw down the checkbook like the old time the George Steinbrenner Yankees would have. If George Steinbrenner was in charge, I'd probably say he's a Yankee by tomorrow. But the comments by Brian Cashman, the hesitancy to act like the Yankees of old, the first time they've really acted like it since 2013 was the Juan Soto edition. So I guess that has to give you some hope if you're a Yankee fan, and that the Dodgers are spending all kinds of money. Maybe they're prioritizing saving a little bit of money and trading from their prospect depth for guys like Corbin Burns, who might have a little bit less of an AAV, but give them the same type of performance that they're looking for. In that way, I could see your point there, Dan, but I just think the Dodgers really don't give a rip right now about the money. They're just spending and trying to add to this team and make it a true dynasty and win not just one World Series with Shohei, but multiple World Series titles. And they're trying to do it right now in free agency, in a free agency class that's not exactly great for position players. There's still a ton of starters out there, but they're looking also at the trade market, obviously, with the Glasnow addition. There's still Burns out there. There's still Bieber. There's still Cease. They're heavily invested in bringing in Cease as well. I still think the Orioles are the favorite to bring him in, though. But I would not be surprised for the Dodgers to have the best starting rotation in all of baseball in 2 weeks. We'll see where Yamamoto goes, where Kershaw decides to sign, but I think their rotation is going to be fantastic. Hopefully Ohtani threw a good pitch for him. I believe he did. I mean, if you heard the pitch from the Dodgers for Yamamoto, they had a ton of people there. They had Freeman there. They had Betts there. They had Ohtani there, all in attendance for that meeting, among others. And I think that's a very good thing when you're trying to pitch to a free agent, that this is the team you want to go to, because those are the guys he's actually going to talk to every day. Those are the guys he's got to be friends with over the course of the entirety of that contract. Front office is the front office. You got to be able to get your paycheck from your boss and do what your boss needs you to do to make you successful. Outside of that, the 9-to-5 grind of being in the clubhouse all day with the team, traveling from city to city to city. That's where those types of guys need the connection with the players, and having teammates, future teammates in those meetings is really beneficial. Ohtani, a guy who speaks the language, a guy he looks up to. Everybody thought maybe that could be a deterrent. Maybe he wants to sign somewhere else to be his own man, etc. I mean, LA is a big city. He can be his own man on the same team. I don't think there's any qualms about that. Wow, we got 41 of you guys with us. Thank you guys for joining us. Make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe, by the way. But as I was saying with the Dodgers, having Ohtani, Betts, Freeman all there in attendance really does help their free agency push. I understand the Mets had Kodai Senga talk to him. Cohen went over to Japan to actually talk with him and his family and have a home-cooked meal from his family while he was there. That does help as well. But is he going to be palling around with Steve Cohen 300 days out of the year? I don't think so. And so I think players that are going to be in the clubhouse with him, like the Dodgers have, Ohtani, Betts, Freeman, etc., having those guys there is absolutely vital. And I think that's very good news for the Dodgers to be able to get that deal done. Welcome in, Charles. Brandon Staley fired. I would hope so. I would have fired him at halftime. I haven't seen any headlines yet, but yeah, he was 42-0 losing to Vegas right now on Amazon. In case you guys are missing out, but MLB needs a salary cap, Leslie. I don't think there will ever be one. Argument could be made whether or not they need one or not, but it's never going to happen. Players Union will never, ever, 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 let me repeat this again, ever allow a salary cap. Now, the luxury tax, CBT tax, that's the way the league has really tried to curtail spending, and they really tried to address that during the most recent collective bargaining talks anyway, to try to curtail some of the excessive spending of the top flight teams. But we never had an owner like Steve Cohen with the pocketbooks that he has that's willing to write that $100 million check just for tax or more. And I think there's multiple teams now that are showing the wherewithal to be able to do that kind of a thing. And so if they're willing to do that, then not only does the tax threshold need to be raised, it needs to be far more punitive than it ever has been before. There has to be some type of regulations on it that says so many years and you can't be at this level again. That might be the next step for the CBT as far as being able to have a salary cap per se. But there'll never be a single season where a team will be capped on the number of dollars they spend. I just don't see it happening. Got quite a few guys in here with us. Appreciate you guys joining us. Sub-Zero, what is international bonus pool money used for? Good question. With the Billy McKinney's trade anyway from the New York Yankees to the Pittsburgh Pirates, the Yankees acquired international bonus pool money. That money is used for international free agency. That's how they got Jason Dominguez, the Martian, to play for them, among with a number of other international free agents. That's how they've really beefed up their farm system. And teams and players from the Dominican, from Latin America, from international places, like to sign with the Yankees because they've heard of the Yankees before. They haven't necessarily watched the Pittsburgh Pirates play every day, and so they might not be willing to sign with the Pittsburgh Pirates, but if the New York Yankees have the offer out there for the same dollar figure, they might take that offer because they've heard of the Yankees. So that type of money is how they've been able to reinvest back into their team when they do spend, lose out on compensation picks, etc. They don't care about that because now they can go out there and spend in their international free agency period and get the guys they want in that range. Dodgers might have to pivot to Shota Imanaga because they need a left-handed starter. I think they'll ultimately get one. I just don't think they'll have any issues with the starting rotation going forward. Imanaga, I think, would be a good sign for them. I think they'll end up getting Yamamoto. I still think Kershaw's going to end up back on that team. I have no issues, with what that rotation is going to look like. Dodgers probably going to wait for Roki in 25. I could see that one. Ohtani, Roki, Buehler, Miller, Glasnow is going to be crazy pitching lineup. True, but I do think Yamamoto will be in that group at some point. Buehler, depending on how he recovers from his injury, probably going to be in that mix as well. Miller, I think, could be spun off for other assets, see what they can do. But I do think Ohtani, Glasnow are probably going to be the headliners of that rotation going forward. The money is there, LC. Couldn't agree with you more. Leslie, so big market teams don't spend like crazy like the Dodgers are right now. You're talking about the salary cap. Like I said, baseball is never going to have a salary cap. It's just not going to happen. As far as a harder tax penalty, that is something that I think very likely could happen. Yankees just traded Billy McKinney to the Pirates. Could you look at it, please? Yes, that's what we were just talking about a minute ago. McKinney goes to the Pirates. We're in exchange for the international bonus pool money. As far as the trade itself, relatively minor trade overall. Pirates get a good veteran in their clubhouse anyway, possibly be in the mix anyway for first base with Rowdy Tellez, maybe a DH type of a bat for them. Not necessarily a significant long-term building block for them. Pirates had some extra money laying around for international spending, so that's what they used it for, to acquire a player that could help them this coming season. For the Yankees, this is about building back their prospect base if they decide to go the trade route this offseason. Remember, they made the trade for Verdugo. They made the trade for Soto. They need some pieces, to fill into that minor league system. By acquiring this bonus pool money will help them do that. And they've done a really great job of that over the years. Jason Dominguez is just one of many international free agents that they've signed using that bonus pool money. Yamamoto is a big Dodgers fan too. Well, that doesn't hurt at all, LC. But Yamamoto, I think, is going to take his time here. I think there's no shortage of teams interested in him. But like John Heyman said on Bleacher Report today, the two favorites, the two heavy favorites right now are the Yankees and the Dodgers. I just think both teams are going to go to the mat for him. I think the Dodgers ultimately get it done because of the pitch that they probably gave to him. But I think it's probably a little bit more influential because Ohtani was there, because they've already gotten him signed already, because now they've made the trade for Tyler Glasnow. I just think that the Dodgers right now have a leg up over negotiations for Yamamoto. For the Yankees, I think the Yankees will probably have to fall back to Shota Imanaga to be another starter for them. I still think he'd be a good addition for them, but not on the level of a Yamamoto. Do you think Gleyber Torres will get dealt? I do not. I think the Yankees lineup is pretty much set for next season right now. Aaron Boone basically saying that DJ LeMahieu is going to be their everyday third baseman. Verdugo is going to be in left, Judge in center, Soto in right. With Stanton going to be the DH. I'm expecting Grisham to get a fair amount of playing time out there in center. But I think the Yankees right now are focused primarily on adding to that rotation. And then once they get that done, they'll pivot to the bullpen and add a few pieces back there. But as it stands right now, Yankees need to add to that staff. And we'll see if they're able to get the job done for Yamamoto. But I don't think they will, even though they're one of the favorites for him. I just think the Dodgers right now, everything is breaking the Dodgers' way. And when a team gets on a kind of a role like this in free agency, we've seen this happen before. Texas Rangers the last couple of years, once they first got that first domino of Marcus Semien getting him signed, then Corey Seager says, okay, you got Marcus Semien, I'll sign there. Then they say, okay, John Gray signs. All of this happened within a 24-hour window right before the lockout. And now we're seeing kind of a similar thing this past season with DeGrom going there and a number of other starting pitchers going there. This offseason, everything's breaking the Dodgers' way, so the Dodgers are going to be quite the formidable team going forward if they weren't already. But this certainly does bolster their ranks, adding Shohei Ohtani, the best two-way player ever to play the game, in my opinion, the most influential player in baseball history as far as being able to affect both the pitching side and the hitting side. This coming season, obviously, is going to be a DH, but that's why they're adding Tyler Glasnow. That's why they're probably going to bring back Kershaw. That's probably why they're going to add at least one more starting pitcher, if not two, on top of what they've already done. And we'll see what the numbers ultimately come in at for Glasnow. I'm expecting a contract probably in that $30 to $35 million range. Maybe the Carlos Rodon contract is a comparable deal for what Glasnow could get, but I think he's probably going to get a little bit more because he's been healthier than Rodon was at the time he had signed. He had shown that he had some fatigue 1 year in the White Sox system, went on a 1 year plus an option to the Giants, proved he could pitch for all 162, etc. Had a great season, had a 2.82 ERA, I believe, for the Giants. Pivoted that into a great long-term deal with the Yankees. Ultimately, it didn't work out. Injury issues again cropped up. Glasnow has been healthier in more recent history, and we'll see how things work out for him in the long run. But I think he has a higher ceiling than what Rodon had. But you always got to worry about that arm with Glasnow. He isn't exactly a stranger to injuries either, with his Tommy John issues in the past, both with the Pirates and with the Rays. But that's kind of where things stand at the moment. Let us know in the comments section which team you guys are pulling for as far as to win the Yamamoto sweepstakes. We touched a little bit on the Texas Rangers adding another starting pitcher to their ranks. Tyler Mahle, 2 years, $22 million. Jack Flaherty to the Tigers, 1 year, $14 million. These starting pitchers are starting to move off the board very quickly. I would expect Blake Snell within the next week or two as well. Once Yamamoto signs, we could see a deal for Blake Snell within the next 24 to 48 hours after that. Same thing as far as a trade for Dylan Cease. I would expect that to happen sometime around New Year's. So keep your eyes peeled for the rest of Major League Baseball's hot stove season. Make sure you guys join us every single weekday around 8:30, 9 o'clock as we break down all the latest for Major League Baseball's hot stove season, the hottest trade rumors. Where's your free agent going to go? What team is he going to sign for? What teams are targeting certain players? We'll keep you guys updated on all those types of things, so make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe, both on the video and on the channel. Really does help us out. You can follow us over on X at Upside Ascent and on Facebook, Upside Sports Network. So kind of a couple of deals that we saw today. One of them I wanted to talk a little bit more about was the Tyler Mahle acquisition for the Texas Rangers. Rangers needed some extra starting pitching. We saw how many starting pitchers they acquired last year and how they really had to count on every single one of them at one point or another. To open the season, they were really counting on 9 starters that had established major league innings at one point. They ultimately still ran out of gas and had to acquire 2 more with a guy who also had Major League starting experience coming out of the bullpen in Chris Stratton as well. They had to add to that bullpen. So right now they have 5 starters to break camp with. Then they're going to get reinforcements with DeGrom and with Maile now out of the in that rotation around the All-Star break, around the trade deadline. We'll see what ultimately happens with the Rangers rotation, but a couple of good arms waiting in the wings there for them. But yeah, the Raiders are certainly laying it on the Chargers right now, 42-0. Yeah, it's ugly. It's 50-0 now? Damn. Yikes. Yeesh. I don't know, man. That's an ugly game to watch. But as far as the Rangers go, they needed some starting pitching. I still don't think they're done adding starting pitchers. I think that if they want to save some money, they could go for the Martin Perez route and see about bringing him back. If they decide to spend money, this is where things get interesting for the rest of the league, is about Jordan Montgomery. His free agency is very fascinating for me because I think he really wants to go back to Texas, and Texas really wants to have him back. They just don't necessarily know clearly which way to go as far as the finances are concerned. One thing that caught my eye today that I don't think anybody out there really noticed about the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Pittsburgh Penguins that might affect every team, the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Rangers, is about the television deal that they just struck. The Pirates and the Penguins just bought Sportsnet Pittsburgh that actually broadcasts the games. The Rangers, who have so many issues, the Mavericks in basketball, the Stars in hockey, all have issues as far as their broadcasting rights and whether or not Bally's going to pay them. The Diamond Sports Group that owns it is going to be able to pay their contracts to make it work. If they decided they could do something very similar to what the Pirates and Penguins did and buy the station that's playing their games and make their money that way and guarantee that their games are broadcast and make their money from advertising and from viewerships, have a direct-to-streaming service somehow, that would be a great way to solve a lot of these issues. Very interesting if you want to check that article out on MLBTradeRumors.com. Very insightful read. One of the greatest articles I've seen them actually post on here. If you guys want to check that one out. Actually, some of the principal owners of the TV station that are going to run that broadcasting system actually work for the Red Sox. So there wasn't a conflict of interest according to Major League Baseball. In fact, they helped facilitate it. I thought that was fascinating as well. Be sure to check out that article on MLB Trade Rumors as far as what could possibly happen to all the different regional sports networks out there. I know so many of you guys had issues watching your own favorite teams last year, and hopefully those types of issues are no longer an issue after this coming season. I think we have one more year to deal with some really tough regional sports network contracts, and then I think we're going to get some real resolutions to a lot of those issues. So bear with us for another year for those of you who have struggled trying to watch your own favorite team. But maybe buying some of these league pass for the basketball, buying center ice for hockey, etc. might be the best way to go, or MLB.TV to actually watch your favorite team. So we'll see. Maybe they won't block it out for us if they're having regional issues as far as broadcasting games, but remains to be seen. But in case you guys are just joining us, right off the top, the LA Dodgers are set to acquire Tyler Glasnow and Manny Margot from the Tampa Bay Rays, along with $4 million cash, in exchange for Ryan Pipio and Johnny DeLuca. A good trade here for both sides. Rays get out of a ton of money. A little bit surprised they added the $4 million, honestly, going back to the Dodgers. I guess when you're trying to spend, $700 million on Ohtani, another $300 probably on Yamamoto, having a long-term deal negotiated for Glasnow, taking on the money of Margot, I guess maybe the least the Rays could do is pitch in $4 million, and for their trouble, the Dodgers are going to give them a really good pitching prospect, Ryan Pipio and Johnny DeLuca. So we'll see what happens the rest of the way for the Dodgers, but I think they're very strongly in there for Yamamoto. I would expect them to get the deal done. They'll have a great 1, 2, 3 in that rotation this year, and they'll have a great 4 going into the rotation next year, and it could even be a solid 5-man rotation. Remember, Yamamoto was used to pitching in a 6-man rotation overseas, so maybe they decided to go the 6-man rotation route, but they were very bereft of starting talent in that rotation by the end of the season. That's why they had to make the acquisition of Lance Lynn. Ultimately, that didn't work out. Lance Lynn has subsequently signed with the St. Louis Cardinals. Congrats on to that Cardinals team and to Lance Lynn on getting that deal done. But that's not the Dodgers team that we're used to seeing last year. That was a shell of itself, to say the least. They no longer have the starting pitching depth, something they've been bleeding for years. all the trades that they made, acquisitions that they made. Ultimately, they didn't re-sign those guys via choice, it sounds like, because they wanted to save money to go after Shohei Ohtani. I get it. Now Ohtani's decided to go ahead and defer $68 million. So was it really worth giving up the possibility of winning a World Series this year when a team like the Arizona Diamondbacks made it all the way to the World Series? Not giving, casting shade on the Diamondbacks at all, but when you look at their payroll does count for something in baseball. It allows you to acquire better talent. And sometimes the talent on other teams does win out. I guarantee you, Corbin Carroll is still going to be a great player, but are we really saying that we expect the Diamondbacks to be the class of the NL West for the next 10 years? I don't think so. I think they'll be a competitive team. I think they'll be a wild card team, but I think the Dodgers just have the pocketbook to go out there and get any ace that they want at any time. I think they can get any major hitter that they want in free agency at any time. They have the prospect depth to go out there and get whatever they need at any trade deadline during the Shohei Ohtani era at this point. Now, of course, it's a 10-year contract. We'll see where they are, 5 years from now. But maybe Ohtani blows out an arm and can never pitch again, and maybe he loses the ability to drive the ball the opposite way or hit the ball out of the ballpark. Injuries are a factor. Don't get me wrong, and money isn't nothing. It doesn't count for everything either, though. But it certainly does help you get the better talent and spend and cover areas where you might not have drafted or developed very well, and get you some better talent in those spots. And we saw where the Rangers were last year. A lot of young guys all over the infield, all over the position player group, but they spent their money on pitching. That was their one deficiency that they've tried to address year in and year out via the draft. It just hadn't worked. So they spent the money, got the starting pitchers, and won a World Series. Dodgers have developed really great talent both on the pitching side and position player talent. They have the luxury of both worlds to where they can use those young guys or trade them for whatever they need that one specific season. So we'll see, where the Dodgers ultimately end up. But for the Giants, who missed out on Ohtani, for the Blue Jays, who missed out on Ohtani, they have to really get something done right now. Where do I think Kiermaier and Bellinger go? Kiermaier, I think his free agency is probably going to wait a little bit. He's got to wait for some of the other free agents to go out there and sign. Bellinger, I think he's waiting for his market. As far as where do I think Bellinger signs, I'm still leaning Cubs just because they need his bat back in that lineup. I could be convinced that the Giants win the bidding. I could be convinced that the Mariners win the bidding there. They, have done an interesting job of clearing off a bunch of money. I think that they're in a very sneaky position up there in Seattle right now for either Blake Snell or Cody Bellinger. I think they could even bring back Teoscar Hernandez, but I don't see them really clearing off salary just to bring back Teoscar Hernandez. They want a high contact guy. I think they're a good team for JD Martinez as well. JD Martinez obviously no longer has a home out there in LA because Ohtani is going to be their everyday DH. So JD Martinez, I think, would be a great fit up there in the Pacific Northwest. Be the DH there, and then Bellinger could be the first baseman if they continue to be dissatisfied with Ty France in the long run, or put him in the corner for now at least, and then once they decide to move off of Ty France, move him to first base, and then bring in another corner outfielder. There's some interesting positions that the Mariners could go as far as with Cody Bellinger. And then, of course, Blake Snell is a native of Seattle, blew the horn at the 12th as the 12th man at a football game for the Seahawks recently. He is familiar with the Seattle area and would really love to sign with them. They have a lot of pitching depth, young pitching depth that they could trade from as well to add a second baseman, a long-term answer at second base, or a corner outfield bat. There's so many interesting things that are happening up there in Seattle. Keep your eyes on them to surprise us and sign one of those top guys out there. I would not be surprised for either one. Phillies are going to scoop up Blake Snell on a discount late January, early February. I don't think that's happening at all. I do think the Phillies are at least discussing it because, hey, if no team is going to sign him right now because they're waiting on Yamamoto, maybe we could get a deal because he's trying to rush his free agency process. I don't think that's going to happen. I think all this does is drive up the price of poker for Blake Snell for a team like the Atlanta Braves if they decided to bring him in, which is another good thing for Philadelphia because if they get them to spend more on Snell, that leaves less money for other additions the Braves could make. So just having a conversation, just sitting down with them, doesn't really hurt them in the long run. I still think they could add at least 2 more bullpen arms back there in Philadelphia, maybe a back-end starter. But right now, Game 1 starter Zach Wheeler, Game 2 Aaron Nola, Game 3 Ranger Suarez, Game 4 I would have started Taijuan Walker. But we saw how much they didn't trust him in the playoffs, even with that great season that he had in Philadelphia. But Blake Snell, I don't think is going to sign anywhere for a discount. I think a team that would fit him great is the San Francisco Giants. How they use their starting pitchers already fits with how Blake Snell throws. He was won the Cy Young last year with the manager Bob Melvin there in San Diego. Now the manager in San Francisco. So if I had to handicap it where Blake Snell goes, I would still lean towards the Giants getting one of the top flight free agents out there finally to sign on their roster. But they still need to add to that lineup, and maybe Juan Soto is the pie in the sky for them next year. But it's going to be quite the bidding war. We saw that between the Yankees and the Giants last year. We saw how that worked out for Aaron Judge. But Aaron Judge is the Yankees guy. Soto is not their Yankees guy as of yet. Maybe he could become their greatest player on their roster, even with Aaron Judge on the team. I don't think it'll happen, and I still think the Yankees could ultimately be outbid next year if things don't go great there in New York this first season with Soto there. What do you think they're doing? What do you think they'll do in the bullpen? As far as the bullpen, they need some 7th, 8th inning guys. Of course, Kimbrel is no longer there. I still think they need to replace the productivity that he gave them during the regular season. I know he blew up in the postseason against the Arizona Diamondbacks. I get it. Philly fans, Philadelphia fans in general, of any of their sports really, very reactionary fans, and that's what fans are. It's short for fanatic. But you also have to be a little bit calm and realize, hey, that's 2 games in the grand scheme of things. And Kimbrel pitched well for them last year. Am I saying he was the dominant Craig Kimbrel that he was with the Atlanta Braves? Absolutely not. But they do need to replace that productivity that they had in the regular season. I think somebody would be a great fit for them would be a guy like Phil Maton, maybe a guy like Ryan Stanek coming over from the Houston Astros. Astros are trying to pinch pennies a little bit. They tried to, lace the thread the needle anyway with the Justin Verlander trade, and they were able to do that, get him at a discount. But they don't really have a whole lot of money to spend. They've got so many guys up for free agency within the next year or two. In fact, almost all of their top flight players, Alvarez, Altuve, Bregman, Tucker, all coming free agents in the next year or two, along with Verlander and Valdez as well. The Astros are going to look very different, and so I don't think they're going to be able to bring back those top flight bullpen guys. They're going to have to do it on the cheap there, and they never really pay top dollar for anything anyway. Just ask Carlos Correa, Justin Verlander when he went to the Mets. Just ask George Springer, Garrett Cole. All these guys basically were priced out of the Houston Astros budget because, well, they didn't want to pay that type of money. We saw that with Verlander when the owner, Jim Crane, said, I'm not paying $25 million for a starting pitcher that's over 40 years old. He ended up getting $43 million, a far bigger contract than what Jim Crane was even willing to do. And ultimately, Steve Cohen is going to eat a whole bunch of that deal to make that deal more palatable to Jim Crane. They were willing to do so, to give up, their 1 and 2 prospects for them to eat the money. They're going to basically push all their chips to the middle here for the next year or two. But I think their chips are already in the middle as far as finances go. All those guys are arbitration eligible and making even bigger salaries this coming year. They're not going to be able to re-sign those bullpen pieces. So teams that are looking for some bullpen help, not only do they have Maton and Stanek, who I think would be great fits there in Philadelphia, they also have Neris out there, a bunch of other pieces that could be nice 7th, 8th inning bullpen setup guys out there on the market for any team to sign. I think Stanek and Maton, though, would be great fits, lengthen out that bullpen a little bit. Maybe a David Robertson as well would be another type of pitcher that would fit great, some closing experience. That way if Alvarado doesn't have what it takes at some point during the season, if he starts blowing a few saves, you have somebody there with some closing experience to give some relief to him, to give him a week off, whatever the case may be, to get his head right. He's a great pitcher, but everybody has a blow up here or there. They've talked a little bit about bringing in Josh Hader. I just don't think they have the money for that. I think there's a number of teams out there that are in there for Josh Hader. In fact, on the trade market, another closer that's available is Emmanuel Clase of the Guardians. He's said to be available along with Shane Bieber of the Guardians. I wouldn't be surprised if both of those guys are traded before we get to spring training. Clase had a down year last year for the Guardians, but teams that need to rebuild their bullpen, the Texas Rangers are no stranger to that one right now. They've already brought in Kirby Yates, but that's not going to be it. I think they're going to still add some more pieces back there. Again, there's questions about their media rights contract. That's why they haven't signed Jordan Montgomery. I think that's part of the reason why they got Tyler Mahle done, so that way they at least have covered themselves for the back half of the season and next year. Should should Montgomery decide to go elsewhere, they at least have an in-house replacement now. I still think they're going to add one more starter. I still think they're going to add at least 2 more bullpen arms, but do they have the money to get Montgomery done? If they don't, do they have the money to get Hader done? If they don't, then what else are they going to do to beef up that roster just a little bit? But appreciate you guys joining us. Got like 45 of you guys with us right now. But thank you guys for joining us. Hit that like and subscribe. Make sure you guys join us again tomorrow night as we're going to be live breaking down all the latest from the MLB hot stove season. Hopefully the Glasnow contract will come out tomorrow. I'm expecting that to happen very quickly. Mark Fansan, we're tweeting out tonight that that deal is expected to be completed with a full contract extension done for Tyler Glasnow at some point in the coming days. Manny Margot, very good position player for the Rays over the last several years, but he's more of a platoon player, and the Dodgers have been using platoons for the better part of their run here over the last 10 years, so he kind of fits in with a mold there as well. But Giants get the deal done for Young-Ho Lee. The Tigers get Jack Flaherty, who had a disappointing second half with the Orioles. But if he's able to rekindle things, if he's a number 5 starter, number 4 or 5 starter for the Tigers, and pitches better than that, the Tigers have something to cook with. If he doesn't, it's only a 1-year deal. But they have some really good young pitchers there in Detroit, but they need some innings eaters behind them. Flaherty and Maeda give them some length and some veteran leadership out of that rotation. We'll see how great the Tigers are next year, but I think they're going to be right there with the Twins to win that division. They might even be my pick to win the division by the end of this offseason, depending on how they attack the rest of their position player group and their bullpen. But make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe. Certainly does help us. Appreciate those of you who have joined us for the first time tonight. Notice we've gained a few subscribers. Wanted to thank you guys. It really does help us out. So we'll see you guys again tomorrow night. Make sure you hit that like and join us on X at UpsideSN. We'll see you guys tomorrow night.